Alright, I'm still trapped in, I don't know, storage unit or something. I still don't know where I am exactly, but at the end of the last recording, Spats came in. He said to not get too comfortable because we'd be leaving shortly. I don't know where we're going. No, I've had another go at the climbing rope to try and break it. I can't. And I don't know if USP are any closer to finding me. Come on! I can't fucking get it open. Ah! God. Yeah, I had to pull the zipper down on my pants, really on my jeans, and managed to pull down my underwear enough to have a piss in the corner. Unfortunately, now the whole fucking room is stinking of it. At least, one thing would be when Spax opens that door, he's gonna get a whiff of my piss. Admittedly, it's not much, though, in the situation I'm in now. Any slight of good things that happen, that's a fucking miracle at this point. I've been here for about 2 hours. Yeah. So, I don't know exactly on when he's planning on moving me, but I feel dizzy, delirious. Although Sfax isn't going to kill me yet, he did find it necessary to whack me over the head a few times. My phone's battery is running out of power, so I don't know how much longer I'm able to record this for. I'm going to keep it going as long as possible, because who knows, maybe there's some useful information here. At the end of it, I just feel so stupid. I remember when I told James and Tom what I was doing, I was basically going to be freelancing for USP to try and find Spats. They both told me the same thing. Don't do that, you fucking idiot. Tom literally dragged me back inside as I was attempting to leave. And then, rather than trying to be forceful about the whole thing, I decided to sit down with them both and have a conversation about it. And somehow I was able to convince them that rather than me just going on a full-out manhunt for him on my own, that I would work properly with USP and find him and then report back everything to them. And in the end, it kind of worked out that way. And I did technically find him, although he was pointing massive arrows at himself for me to find him. And I was stupid enough to fall for whatever he... Oh, hang on. I'm leading on something. It's a scrap piece of metal. It's come from the warehouse. It's pretty blunt. It's worth a try. That's gonna get me nowhere. Well, gotta admit, this does not look good for me. I'm at 1% battery, so this is going to cut out in a minute. I maybe should have saved this for later on, maybe have it in my pocket and just record for as long as it can. When he's transporting me or something. I don't know if that would be any help or not. But if you are listening to this thing, it means one of two things has happened. Either USB or someone else has found my phone, either my dead body, which the case could very well be by the time you're hearing this, or, hooray for me, I'm still alive, hopefully. But hey, all I know now is, although I'm not dead, not yet, my phone is about to die. Okay, it's me, James. I'm taking over for, this bit anyway. As well as USP receiving updates that my dad gave, we received them as well. I can't remember if we were supposed to or not. But once me and Tom heard he'd been captured by Spats, I believe his name is, Tom wanted to go out, after him and find him, but, well, he can't just leave me here. So after some arguing and debating, I told him either he's not going or he's taking me with him, which is exactly what happened. And to be honest, the thought of me going out there on a USP mission, it's exciting, but you also have these terrible thoughts in the back of your head of everything going wrong. It's like when you go on a roller coaster, I guess. The big massive ones. You go on it and that, and you're excited that to go on it, but also the fear and that of going on it as well. But after you've done it, then it all just seems stupid and ridiculous, and you only remember the good bits afterwards until you decide to go on it again. But anyway, we met some USP personnel at the warehouse where my dad last reported at. They had a couple of vague theories on where he would have been taken to, but nothing concrete. Tom was the one who came up with the idea that Spax needed him for, some reason other than just a DNA sample, otherwise he would have just taken it and probably killed him and left. I then said to Tom, knowing my dad, he's probably on his phone recording something, for that bloody podcast he does. Tom then took a second, looked at me and just smiled with hope. He said to me, "You've just given us the answer." I wasn't sure what he meant, but I soon learned as he explained to some of the other personnel at USP. My dad's phone was able to receive USP's messages, and USP was able to trace where every message was sent to. This was in case any of their messages were ever intercepted. So it meant that they could trace it to my dad's phone. And sure enough, they were able to trace it. Unfortunately, when they tried sending another message, they didn't get any signal or any reply. This obviously meant either my dad's phone had been destroyed, was completely out of USP's range, or, simply the battery had probably died. Though, I'm going to put this to me, thanks to me, we did have a lead. And now, we were off to find him. We found the place that he'd been captured and taken to was a small sort of rural household area located on an asteroid. However, this place being abandoned for quite a while since, living on an asteroid is not a very good idea, I'm told. I was told to stay put, but that was hardly happening. I managed to sneak out with everyone else when Tom wasn't looking. We quickly found the house that was being taken to. Outside were two small shuttles. One was the one Spax had taken from USP, and another one that was severely damaged. along with the house. Presumably, it had just been left there when the previous owners had just moved out. We could all see Spax in the window, and then he pulled out my dad. He was holding a gun to his head. He told us all to back away and allow him to leave. As he opened the door to the house, he forced my dad out first, and then the captured scientist from USP, both of them being held at gunpoint and forced to walk. Both of them had their wrists tied together, though their legs were left free, probably because he probably couldn't drag along two bodies and hold them both at gunpoint at once. I realised, although Spax had obviously spotted USP and Tom, I don't think he'd spotted me. Well, he mustn't have done, because I was able to sneak round the back, behind Spax. By this point I'd obviously been spotted by Tom, who was gritting his teeth, although couldn't actually say anything, otherwise he would give my position away, and risk having me shot. I reached into my pocket where I had scissors made for cutting fabric. I was going to be using them to cut out material for my dad's coat, but I found another use for them. I stabbed Spax in the ankle, forcing the scissors in as hard as they would go. My dad then saw his opportunity and ran. The scientist attempted to run as well. Unfortunately, he tripped up and just fell to the ground. My dad tried to run to USP and Tom, but Spax started shooting, so he quickly turned directions and fled to the old battered and damaged shuttle. He then took off and left. Despite me stabbing him in the ankle, I guess the adrenaline made it so Spax didn't feel the pain, at least not initially, because he was able to run to the shuttle that he'd stolen from USP. He then quickly followed and went after my dad. Then Tom, USP and the rest of us made it back to our shuttle and followed them as well, bringing the USP scientists who had been left behind. We might not have rescued my dad, but, well, at least he wasn't captured anymore, though now he was being hunted down by Spax. Tom questioned the scientist and asked him what Spax was doing. He told us I was going to be creating an army of Scarvres, and now thanks to him, he had all the equipment ready-made. The only thing he needed now was my dad. Tom then asked where the equipment was. He replied that it was all on the shuttle. Spax was planning to leave anyway. He only stayed in that house so that the equipment could be built, as it would have been dangerous to assemble it on the shuttle. This now made it more urgent than ever that we catch up to Spax before all hell broke loose. Well, hello, it's me again, your pal Donfrey. So, anyway, after distraction was made, I was able to run to a shuttle that had seen better days. That's putting it as nicely as possible. I then immediately set off. And you know USB being universal? Well, it isn't just to Earth. USB is used throughout the universe. I know. They weren't joking when they said it was universal. So I was thankfully able to charge up my phone on that shuttle. But anyway, I was able to receive an incoming message from James, who frankly irritated that he disobeyed me and apparently disobeyed Tom. But I'll play you the recording. Hello, Dad, can you answer? Listen, we're following you. We're gonna find you. James? James, that's you? What the fuck are you doing here? Yeah, well, Spax is after you. And you're the last thing he needs. You're the last part of his plan. Yeah, I'm quite aware of that, actually. Look, I'm gonna cut off communication from you. Wait, what? Listen, I need to ditch him, and that also means ditching you. So that means no contact whatsoever. If you want me to get away from him, then unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut yous off. You can't outrun him in that thing. I don't have to outrun him, I just have to find a way to ditch him. Anyway, he'll probably be able to pick up on this transmission anyway, so I'm switching it off. If I'm lucky, then I'll meet up with you later. Oh, and James? Yeah? You're grounded until further notice. I then proceeded to do what some people will call reckless driving, or piloting in this case. I basically went in every direction apart from straight, making it impossible to predict where I was going. And to be honest, I didn't know myself, I was just going round randomly. I then saw my opportunity, though it was a dangerous one. I headed into an asteroid belt. I was swerving, going back and forth. I had to be on double high alert. One for the asteroids and one for Spax, who was on my metaphorical tail. Going through that asteroid reminded me of playing Scarvre 64. Except rather than being on my 7th pint in the back of a pub at 12 AM, I was bruised and battered. Still though, in both cases, I had a headache. Still though, I was very lucky. A large enough asteroid came between me and Spax, blocking his vision of me. This gave me enough time to slip away. I wasn't sure what to do, or more precisely where to go. Then I saw something I never thought I'd see, and to be honest it's quite hard to believe even now. In my sights I could see a massive space cruiser, with a Union Jack on it. The sign read, "The Out of Space Pub." Yes, this cruiser was a massive British pub. I thought that here was better than anywhere else, I guessed. If anything, I might have been able to find a mechanic to have a look at the shuttle, to maybe get it in some repairs on it. Although everything was fully functioning, I didn't know how long that would last. As I docked in the docking bay, which really was more like a car park than a regular docking bay, it even had white lines for spaces, and with a ticket inspector going round, which took me a moment to recognise who it was. In fact, I wouldn't have bothered glancing over at her if she didn't start shouting my name. Then I realised who it was. "Sally? Sally? Is that you?" Blimey, I didn't recognise you with your hair tied back like that. Sally, she was my ex-girlfriend. We worked together for about a year or so, when I was about 19 years old. Apparently, I'm told the reason she left me is because I became too obsessive with what she called pursuing a music career with a talentless dickhead. I hope that these are words that people don't describe me as now. Though, to be honest, I think people describe me as many things that are possibly much worse, so I'll take what I can get. But anyway, Sally immediately tugged some of the hairs on my cheek. This obviously, made me reacting the following. "Ah! What the fuck did you do that for?" She said she just wanted to check to make sure it was real. We hadn't seen each other in, obviously, years. And although she, I didn't know anything of what she was getting up to, she, obviously knew what I was up to. Having a year of fame, then with that fame running down, and then that fame now climbing back up, unfortunately this time for the wrong reasons. I then stopped her from what was clearly meant to be catching up with each other on what's happening, and I just bluntly asked her, "Look, do you know of any mechanic or anyone who can have a look at this shuttle? Maybe fix it up a bit, or make sure it stays in one piece long enough?" She then interrupted me to ask me what was happening. She assumed that I was on the run from the law, because of my causing to destroying half the earth. I then had to quickly inform her as best as I could of everything that had happened up to that point, and that Spax no doubt would be on his way shortly. She then said to me, if I was working for USP, then maybe her employer might let me borrow her shuttle, or possibly contact USP headquarters without alerting Spats. I agreed that was the best thing I could do, or that she could do for me. Then, as we began to leave the landing bay, the sound of another shuttle entering made my ears perk up. I only needed a glimpse to recognise it. Spax was already here, and before he'd even fully landed, he'd opened the shuttle window and was pointing a gun out of it. I then shouted to Sally, "Get down!" as Spax took shots at us. I then heard Spax shouting back at us, "Come on, Donfrey! It's only set on stun. I'm not gonna kill you yet. Though I will kill anyone else who gets in my way. So why not surrender now and it can all be over? It's that easy." He then exited his shuttle. Before I had time to think or say anything, Sally grabbed my arm and shouted at me, "This way." She led me into the pub area, which, on the interior, looked to be just like any other British pub, with old oak wooden tables that had a layer of sticky substance on them of the amount of beers that had been placed on them, as well as that strong alcoholic smell in the air that if you inhaled it for long enough, You were getting intoxicated off the fumes alone. Yes, for a moment, for that, in fact not even a moment, for just that microsecond, it felt like being at home again. And I mean, home as in before any of this had started. It's reminded me of the days when me and Sally would go out to the pub on a Friday night. Well, I say a Friday night. To be honest, I don't know what night we went out. Just, we'll call it a Friday night. Because in Britain, well, whenever you want to go out drinking, every day's a Friday night. We then ducked behind the bar. Before anyone had time to question us, Spax came in all guns blazing. It was definitely not set on stun anymore. He immediately just shot and killed 8 people, dead, as he walked through the doorway. He then declared for everyone to stay where they were, and if anyone moved, they would immediately be killed. Not just shot, no, killed. He was giving no warning shots. He was making his terms very plain and simple. Do as he said, or you die. He then asked for me, and that for every 10 seconds I refused to give myself up, he would kill someone inside the pub. It only took him to count to 2 before I stood up. I raised both my hands in the air, surrendering myself. Okay, Spax, okay, you can stop killing them now. You can have me all you want, just stop killing them. Spax then took a second and looked at me. He then also looked at his gun. Then he said something which I hadn't thought of and I was dreading. No, Donfrey. I have realised my mistake. I shouldn't have just captured you like that. No, I think I need a hostage in order to ensure your cooperation. I then interrupted. Look, as long as you don't kill anyone else, we'll just leave the 2 of us. And I swear, you can do whatever you like to me. Whatever you want, just leave everyone else alone. He then interrupted me. As he licked his gun. I think I'm the one who's making the decisions. Then Sally stood up, holding what looked like a taser that shot out. Spax opened his eyes widely in surprise and then slowly edging his way forward towards me and Sally. Sally then warned him if he stood 1 step closer, she would use the taser on him. He then began to laugh. Do you know who I am? I'm a former member of USP. I was a commander. As long as I stand here and you stand there, I'm out of your range. But unfortunately for you, you are not out of range of my weapon. I then stood in front of Sally, shouting, If you want to kill her, then you're gonna have to kill me first. Spax then slightly lowered his gun, still pointing it in my direction, but in a more relaxed pose. He then looked me in the eye and said, Well, Mr. Doncaster, it looks like we have a winner for who will be my hostage. You, Sally, is it? Could he call you? I think we better get moving. You have 10 seconds to drop your taser and come out in front of me, or I will start killing people again. Sally then dropped the taser to the floor and put her arms up in the air. As we began walking out from behind the bar, I whispered quietly in her ear, I'm sorry. I really am. I promise I'll get you out of this. I promise you're gonna be okay. She then whispered back that she knew she was, but she appreciated me looking out for her. Spax then led us both out, back into the landing area where his shuttle was. Well, I say his stolen USP shuttle was. He then shot the engine of the shuttle that I came in. As he did, he turned to me and said, Just in case. After all, you can never be too careful these days. We then both got into his shuttle and left. He said to us to not get too comfortable. We won't be travelling very far away, just far enough in order to put a bit of time between us and USP, who was after him. We landed on the next nearest dwarf planet, which was a scrapyard. Spax then made sure that mine and Sally's arms were both tied up, and that Sally's legs were tied together. Then, pointing a gun to me, he dragged Sally out of the shuttle and lay her flat on the ground so that she couldn't easily get up. He then pointed to some equipment in the shuttle and told me to bring it out, being extremely careful. If I dropped it or attempted to damage it, he would kill Sally. I did as he said. He then told me how to assemble the equipment. Once it was fully assembled, it resembled a metal archway with two massive cylinders on either side. This was the equipment the scientists they captured from USP had put together. Then there were some wires that were connected to a familiar-looking headpiece. Spax then sat me down on a rudimentary chair of scrap metal and looked me in the eyes. He said, "You recognise this piece, don't you? The principle of it is not too dissimilar to that device that scanned your mind and brain, which found your chemical imbalance. Except this one's going to do a lot more. You see, although I have a Scarvre DNA sample, it's not enough to create an army. I need a much larger sample. And while finding you and transporting you all the way here was admittedly not very easy, it was much more manageable than taking an actual Scarvre here. But anyway, what this machine is going to do is, using the Scarvre DNA sample I have, it's going to seek out the part of your DNA that is just Scarvre. And, with thankfully a little bit of tweaking, give the Scarvre a bit more intelligence. Enough to see me as its rightful alpha, if you like. I'll only need you, though, long enough to create the first batch. Then after that, I can use any one of the Scarvres that you helped create to create more. So anyway, once I press this button, it'll begin. Oh, and don't worry, I've made sure that it'll be painful." He smiled with glee as he wiggled his finger over a massive red button on a control panel. At this point, I had nothing else to say other than, "Get on with it then." Spax then pressed the button. I could feel the needles in the headpiece insert themselves into me, extracting blood samples so that they could find the Scarvre in my DNA. It felt like someone rummaging through my head. The pain and agony was something that I'd never felt before. At least, not the one that was self-inflicted. The pain was unrelentless, unimaginable. It's impossible for me to tell you how long it lasted for. It could have been seconds, it could have been minutes. I couldn't tell. I couldn't feel the passage of time anymore. I couldn't feel or remember anything before or after during it. While it was happening, it just felt as if an eternity. Eventually, it stopped. The archway began to light up. Then, what came through it was the first in Spax's army of Scarvres.